Today, Lena was in town and came out to visit us at the ranch for a lesson. A good warm-up is always important. I asked Aries to yield his hindquarters and then step out on the circle with his shoulders. We soon graduated to asking for a full sideways yield. Aries initially did not understand, so I used the fence to prevent him from going forward, making sideways the easier option. Every time he yielded his whole body sideways, I relaxed and rewarded him. Next, Elena wanted to see Aries a little less startly about being touched unexpectedly with the stick. So I sent him out on a circle and touched and poked him everywhere. He quickly stopped twitching at every touch. Anxiety can go up with speed, so I made sure to poke and touch him at the walk and the trot. We went back to sideways, and I had Lena show me exactly what she wanted me to do, because Aries was traveling forward too much and not actually yielding over sideways. We then went back to sideways, incorporating our new lesson of being touched with the stick while moving. On to riding. Before going out on a trail ride, I wanted to have a few skills to use when Aries braced against my requests. Lena suggested that I use the stick to create a wall. So if I ask Aries to turn and he braces and doesn't turn, pulling on his face will do nothing and will only make it worse. So I will use the stick to block his brace. Fairly quickly, Aries started to put the pieces together that bracing wasn't going to work, and that it would be easier for him to just do the turn that I asked for. Over the past few weeks, Aries' behavior has definitely changed. For the better. He has relaxed more and become more confident and began to challenge me more. This is a double-edged sword, of course. He is challenging me because he is more comfortable, but I also have to cowgirl up, as they say, and stand my ground when he challenges me. If I back down, he has no problem taking over. This is a learning process for me, since I have never had a horse with such presence before. He really does have a powerful air about him, and I have to earn his respect. Here I start to incorporate our earlier work with being touched by the stick and tap his hindquarters to get him to yield them over. He is still quite jumpy about being touched on the hind end by the stick, but he got better throughout our lesson. I did make sure to take plenty of breaks where I stroked him front and back with the stick. Rewards are very important to him, so I make sure that he gets plenty. Here I continue to ask him to turn until he stops bracing and actually yields. It may be hard to see, but trust me, I can feel the difference. He was offering such a lovely forward and floating trot. It was such a pleasure to ride. It's probable that our first canter will just evolve out of a forward trot and happen naturally. He still tries to lean on me in the turn, pushing his weight into the outside shoulder, bracing against my request. So I wave the stick near the outside of his face to remind him that it's easier just to turn. Once he lightens up, comes off that rein and turns, I relax, send him forward, and tell him he's awesome. He seems to appreciate the compliment. Right here was the lightest turn he offered, so we immediately ended the lesson. Nice little breakthrough for us. Hopefully, in a week or two, we'll be out riding the trails. Today, my vet came out to work on Aries' teeth. I wanted to have his teeth looked at before I asked him to use a bit. So many horses have a lot of pain in their mouths because their teeth are out of alignment or have sharp edges. And I don't want Aries to have any pain and associate it with a bit. The way we decided to tackle this was to start by doing Picasso's teeth. Aries could watch the whole process and hopefully be a bit calmer about it. Plus, Picasso would stay with him the whole time. I really do owe a debt of gratitude to my trusty gray gelding. He is a rock-solid horse that I can depend on to do anything. My vet Terry spent some quality time with Aries, walking around, getting to know him, scratching him any place she could get. I do adore my vet for her kind demeanor and patient attitude. She wants the horse to have a good experience, always. She also is an excellent body worker and always knows where to touch the horse that's going to feel most pleasurable to them. We lightly sedated Picasso and started in on his teeth. He had a few sharp points that Terry filed down. Aries stood by casually, keeping an eye on what we were doing. Terry's new speculum is very lightweight and has a smooth crank to open the mouth. It's also wider, so the lips don't get pinched. Picasso, being the good boy that he is, got through his dental with no problems. Now it was Aries' turn. Terry gave him a sedative in the muscle first to partially sedate him before she gave him an intravenous sedative. He took both shots pretty well. Terry first checked to see if Aries' teeth glided smoothly over the grinding surfaces. They did not. He had a ridge along the outside of his upper jaw that prevented the lower jaw from grinding smoothly across the whole surface of the tooth. This produced several sharp points that actually gave him some small ulcers inside his mouth. Not very comfortable. Aries also had a couple of incisors that were growing incorrectly and would need some reshaping. She slowly put the speculum on Aries, and he took it like a champ. Terry knows horses so well. She would work on his mouth for a little while, then give him a break, relax the speculum, and allow him to feel around his mouth with his tongue. And it definitely made a difference. Even as he started to come out of the sedation, he kept letting her grind his teeth, with a power float, I might add. Sounds like a giant drill, and he just stood there and let her do it. He definitely understood she was helping him. Terry would flush his mouth out every now and then and let him run his tongue over his now smoother teeth. All the while, Picasso dozed next to him, keeping him company. Even under sedation, horses are still aware of what's going on, so that made it all the more amazing that he was tolerant of this new adventure. I also want to add that there was a bitter cold wind blowing the whole time. I am incredibly lucky that I have great friends that will come and film for me, even in these harsh conditions. My camera woman today was standing there bundled up so only her eyes were showing. Once Terry finished her work on the molars, she showed me the now smoothed out surfaces of his mouth. I could also see patches of red gums where he was having some irritation from holding his tongue still so as not to cut it on the sharps of his mouth. Poor guy. Now time to work on the incisors. She removed the speculum as it was no longer needed. Aries had 2 incisors that were growing too high and were actually cutting off the growth of an incisor that was in between them. Not wanting to cause further problems, Terry said she would only make minor adjustments and hopefully help his teeth adjust themselves. If you make too drastic a change, further misalignments can be created. Aries doesn't seem to mind getting his nose touched so much now. It was a pleasant experience all around. Aries never exploded or panicked. Terry was able to correct all that she felt she could correct at this time, and most importantly, Aries now has nice, smooth teeth to eat with. The ulcers and irritation he has will go away quickly, and hopefully he will enjoy a more pain-free mouth from now on. All in all, Terry said his mouth was not that bad for having never had his teeth done before.